Welcome back to Leah's Lifestyle, and we're on another day of our little book reading. Invested is the book for today. Like we've been going through, we're on chapter 5, and we're just going to get right into it. This is Charlie's Moat in Management. This is supposed to be for May, but again, whether you're following along per week with us and going through it, or doing it per month, not having to start on any particular month, that is your choice. We're going to be focusing on moat, big four numbers, and growth, windage, growth rate, management, and checklists for Charlie's first 3 principles. The first thing I highlighted here was Charlie's second and third principles, ensuring the competitive advantage of a company and then evaluating the people running the company. Charlie Munger's second principle of investing, intrinsic and durable competitive advantage. The concept is referred to as a moat. A moat is exactly what we all think of, the body of water surrounding a castle to prevent attacks. In investing, the castle is the business, and the moat is the competitive advantage the business intrinsically has that makes it nearly untouchable by competitors for long-term cash flow. It's going to be hard for competitors to breach the moat and take the castle. Not impossible, but difficult. So difficult that if they had all the money it would cost to buy the whole company, they still couldn't compete with it. Then her father says, the company is founded to meet a need and solve a problem. They solve the problem and meet the need, and probably over some number of years, the problem or the need becomes obsolete. There are very few companies that last 100 years. Notice where a company is in its life cycle and what gives it a long-lasting, durable, intrinsic, competitive advantage to stick around as long as possible. What makes a moat different from pure competitive advantage is that it is a competitive advantage that is first intrinsic to the business and second durable. So I think that would be a good thing to write down. We're going to remember moat, but I think a good thing to write would just be like second principle, and what makes moat different from competitive is that the competitive advantage that hits first. So first, intrinsic to the business. Second, durable. Intrinsic to the business means that their advantage cannot be separated from the business. Durable means that it's so difficult or expensive or both to overcome that intrinsic characteristic that no competitor is going to try, so we can expect that it's going to continue for a long time to come. So we have 5, he says, and a half moats. So we're just going to say, you can say type of moats or 5 and a half moats, whatever you want to write in your little note here. I'm going to say, I'm just going to say 5.5 moats. Moat types. And the first one is brand, which we've talked about last week if you're following along with us through the book and the podcast, we talked in the podcast. And brand is when a company has a brand that is so strong that it would be very difficult for another company to create an equal strong brand to compete with them. The examples they give are Coca-Cola and Pepsi, which they also did in the podcast. But also there's Harley, not a motorcycle, iPhone, not a smartphone, Kleenex, not a facial tissue. So a good representation of this would be think of the company that makes something that other people make, but you think of that company's name first. So you can write whatever works for you for writing this brand down, but I'm just going to write essentially a company where you think of the name of the company over the product it makes. A company where you think of the company's name over the product it makes. Okay, 2. Switching. When it is very difficult, expensive, or painful for a customer to switch away from using a company's product or service. Examples that they gave is the Apple computer products, Apple iPhone, laptop, iPad, watch, right? I do the same thing. I have a Google phone, Google Watch. That doesn't mean I can't or won't switch, but the pain of switching deters me, even if my current products are not as good as their competitions, which we can see in Apple right now, right? Like Apple doesn't now have the best. It used to all the time, especially with Steve Jobs, like in the run. I don't know if he's still there. I don't think he is. But if you, like, for example, for larger companies, it could be like Microsoft, right? Adidas? No, what is it? I said Adidas. It's another software company. But anything that's like really entangled or mixed in, and it has all of your data and information, and you'd have to like switch that from one to another, that would be a big one. So for switch, I'm just going to say so ingrained in information / products that no matter what, I don't want to, even with new technologies, I wouldn't want to switch. Products so ingrained in my life, even when better comes, I don't want to switch. Number 3, 2.5. Sorry, 2.5. This is the half part, which is network effects. A subset of the switching mode when a company provides an exclusive network to which the user wants access. The act of switching itself is not difficult, but switching away from the network would mean losing the access. The example they give is Facebook. Other things would be like, I know Facebook owns it, but Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, right? Like, you could stop completely using these products, but then you would no longer be a part of the societal situation. You would no longer get all the things you uploaded, and you wouldn't get the views, the likes. Like Spotify, for example. I think they can have it where you can download your information to other things, but I think the reason people stay on it is because it's not all your liked songs. It's what you've listened to, your playlists, like the people you follow, artists, other friends. It's become much more involved, and I see people trying to encourage people away from Spotify because of where Spotify puts their money towards. Like, they don't like that the money goes towards Israel in any way, shape, or form, right? Or pays for certain things that people disagree with morally or valuably, but that doesn't change the fact that it's one of the easiest platforms to upload for even small streamers, and that small streamers can even get plenty of listens and views, and they can make monetarily even cents off of it pretty quickly. And I think that's just kind of one of those things where people don't want to lose the access to that, the easy listens, to the easy essentially ads, right? Like, it's like you're putting your name out there for free, I think. I don't think you have to pay to do that. I would have to look in to double check that, but I'm pretty sure. So, what's a simple way to say this instead of the long way that they said? You could easily switch, but you would lose access. I think it might just be the best way they say it. The act of switching itself is not difficult, but switching away from the network would mean losing the access. So yeah, I'm gonna say first network effects, and then you could switch, but you would lose access and data to the network. Okay, next page. And the next one, 3, would be toll bridge. This one's kind of self-explanatory if you just think about it. But the book says, when a company has a monopoly or near monopoly in their industry, this is usually created by governmental regulations or interventions, geographic or driven by the unbelievable cost to enter the market. Examples would be like the International Railroad. Burlington Northern Railroad controls the railroad tracks. So that is not only something that would be financially impossible to get into, but also the government and the people just wouldn't allow you to buy the land needed to be able to make railroad tracks. So it's just like, unless you somehow convinced Burlington Northern Railroad to use the tracks with them, which they wouldn't because they probably already use it to the max capacity, and they wouldn't want to give up that time. You probably could never pay them enough to give up that time. You just could never. There's no amount of money that would let you in. Another thing would be like a literal toll bridge. One that I've recently found out about is that I didn't realize was a big one was the Golden Gate Bridge. I guess there's another bridge that you can use outside of the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's an hour drive down and like over and back up. So it takes you an extra hour. I guess it's free, but it just takes you would spend more money in gas than you would using the toll bridge. And I didn't know this either, but apparently it's like $15 to like cross that toll bridge. I've been there and I've seen the Golden Gate Bridge, but I biked there. We didn't drive, so I didn't know that it costed money like that. I biked across it. It's free to bike and walk across it, so if you're driving across it, I guess commuters are continuously paying a lot of money. How to simplify that? Let's see. I think the best way to simplify it would be saying something like, in daily life, you have to pay to use this, and most of the time it's necessary for the people in the area. In daily life, you have to use it. And I'm going to say, and no amount of money could buy a company to replace or take revenue from it. Okay, so 4 is secret. When a company has proprietary secrets that protect it from other companies copywriting it. These might take the form of patents or trade secrets or other forms of intellectual property. Examples are like the pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Merck. And then it also says a company like 3M might choose not to patent an invention to avoid announcing how to create it, a requirement of a patent filing, and instead protect it as a trade secret to keep it well hidden from reverse engineering. So I think Coca-Cola likes to pretend they have a secret, right? It's kind of like the same idea where like you have something that other people can't make. Pharmaceuticals, Ozempic is a big one. Their patent is actually coming up, so we've seen the price really high. Because they've had the patent on it, it's really high, but it's no longer going to be a secret because they had to patent it, and now that patent's coming up. And other companies I've heard in India will be making it, and that will bring the price down if they are able to do that. So pharmaceuticals is a really good secret company. I can't think of another secret company off the top of my head, truthfully. But I would say iPhone in the beginning probably had a bit of a secret because no one knew how to make them the same, right? Like what we saw in the beginning was the BlackBerry trying to compete in like a different format and not in the same way. But I guess that ended up changing, right? Because now everyone has iPhones and touchscreens and stuff. So I think to be a true secret, it means that like nobody can make those. So I'm almost questioning a little bit, like if they're true secrets, because the patent eventually comes up, right? But this is what they use. So I'm gonna let's see, secrets. How's a good way? I'm going to say a company that has a patent or information that others have not yet figured out. When a company how do you spell patent? I'm trying to look at patent. Okay. Patent or information on how to make something others have yet to replicate. Okay, number 5, the last one. Price. When a company is the low cost provider because it can make its product or provide its service more cheaply than anyone else, and it is intrinsically able to sustain that advantage. Example would be like Costco, and it says any company trying to compete with a nearby Costco on price would quickly become a cautionary tale of economic Darwinism. I would also say Walmart would be a big one. Coca-Cola is one. They have a price because they can like change the price of theirs without really affecting anything. Actually, they make it so like Coke is cheaper than water, which is insane. Let's see, what's another price one that I can think of? Amazon can do that a bit, right? Like, what was it? The Amazon tablet things, they actually sell those at a point where it costs them to make them and sell them, but they can do that because they can keep it at that lower price while people will still pay them money outside of other things, right? Like their Amazon Prime and stuff like that. So they can sell those at a price that makes them nothing, where they have to pay for it actually, so that people would want to buy it because it's the lowest price compared to all the other like tablets and stuff. So for this one, I'm gonna say when a company controlled the the lowest price for the products. When a company can control price and keep it at the lowest for their product. Okay. The key question was, is it really a full moat that is intrinsic and durable to the company? So you really have to figure out if it's intrinsic and durable. And I think that's what I was thinking about the secrets in price for some of them, is because for me, I think those are going to be the hardest ones to fully figure out, because a secret eventually is not going to be durable. I think those are probably the weakest moats, is because a secret can't always stay durable. Eventually the patent's going to come up and other people are going to try and make it and sell it for cheaper, right? Secrets, they're like, you're not the only smart person in the world. Other people, if they want to make money off of it, if they have the time and resources, will take the time to figure out how to make what you're making, maybe even make it better. So those ones are iffy for me. That's one I'm going to have to spend a lot more time on to really figure out what a real secret is. And price is the same thing. Costco can keep its prices really low, right? But so can Walmart. So where are they at? For Costco, you have to buy it, and you have to buy bulk, where Walmart is not always, it's not a bulk company, so you can buy cheaper. And honestly, Walmart has put out more companies, I'm sure, than Costco has, like more mom and pop shops, right? So, trying to figure that out, what those are. And truthfully, I don't really like the idea of following a company whose price moat is that they can make it the cheapest. I think that morally for me is questionable, because a lot of the ones that can make it cheapest do make it cheapest to profit themselves, to be able to knock out other small companies in the area, so they have all the buying power. And I don't like that at all. I didn't highlight much here because I hope that you go read it, but they did talk about Coca-Cola and Apple, and kind of like how you figure out their moats, and like why their moats are the moats that they are. So you guys should go check those out. Check the book out, read it, listen to that. But on page 128, I started back up with, if you're facing the kind of obsolescence, there's nothing you can do about it except foresee it, sell your company, or join the new wave, as IBM did. IBM is selling machine that has a switching moat, and they have held their switching moat by buying new technology as it comes out and providing it to their customer quickly enough that it's not worthwhile for them to switch. And so I think that's a big thing to pay attention to these moats is, and I think is really important about durability, is figuring out, is the company capable to keep up with change? Big thing about companies is the longest they have is about 100 years, but is that true if, like IBM was able to prove, that you can buy up other things to keep your moat where it's at, and as long as you're moving with times. So I think a big thing for moats is this company's durability because they are willing and capable, do they have show proof that they are capable of adjusting with the times? I think that's super important. The example that he gave here is companies that used to be typewriter companies. Like if they're selling typewriters, the best thing you could do is, if you're going that obsolete when the computer comes out, is to either sell your company or become a computer company, right? And I think that'd be really difficult for some companies to be able to adjust and switch like that. So that's a part of the durability you really need to pay attention to, is this company capable of being adjusted into the new times when new things are found? Little note from Phil here. He talks about the SEC requirements, about them having to put out the that they have to provide standard GAAP compliant accounting, but to be careful about it. So the the things I highlighted here are: they are often designed to mislead an investor into thinking the company is doing better than it's actually doing. Anytime they use adjusted earnings, or EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax depreciation, and amortization, be suspicious and skeptical. So I'm gonna just kind of make, because we're moving into like doing some notes about financial statements. So I'm just going to say right here, because these are going to be for like the 10Ks, the 5Qs, and other financial statements. Watch for adjusted earnings, or EBITDA. And then I'm just going to make a little smaller note next to it saying meant to mislead. And then underneath that, in financial statements, it says income statement. Subtract expenses from revenue and you get profit. Profit is how much you have left over. So that's how you find. I'm just going to read the whole thing so you guys can understand. How much money you are making, revenue, how much expenses you have. Subtract those, you get profit. Profit is how much you have left over. And then it gives you an example of how to figure that out. So I think we're just going to say expense minus revenue equals profit. And then on the next page, it continues with balance sheet. In the example, I'm just going to read the little thing here. What do you own? Assets. What do you owe? Liabilities. What's left? So if you own your house, assets, and you inherit from your grandfather, some stuff, you add that all up. You owe a certain amount of money. You take your assets minus liabilities, and what is left is what you actually get when you've sold everything off and you paid everyone off. So assets minus liabilities is what you have, is like your actual amount of money. And cash flow statement. How much actual cash you have in the bank tells you the operating cash, the invested in cash, and the financial cash. The cash flow statement lets us know what's actually in the bank account, which is very important. So I'm going to say, I'm going to tell you what each operating cash is: the actual cash you spent and got from the business operation, cash that went to investing in equipment or buying a business or came in from selling parts of the business and investing cash, and cash from loans and stocks is financial cash. So, operating cash, which is actual spending. 2, investing cash. is what you buy. And financing cash is loans and stock. And that's my notes for one page. Okay. So we want to see the 4 major numbers are considered over time because that might mean these numbers are predictable in the future. And he calls them the big 4 numbers. So we're just going to write big 4 numbers. 1, which is net income. Also called net profit. You can write that. Or net earnings. And this definition would be profit after all costs of making that profit have been deducted. Profit after all costs of making that profit have been deducted? Wait. This doesn't... Profit after all costs of making that profit have been deducted. That doesn't sound proper. Like, that whole sentence sounds stupid as fuck. I feel like there should be commas or something. It's profit after all costs of making that profit have been deducted. Do they mean costs, that all costs have been deducted? Profit after all costs have been deducted? That would make more sense. Why would you deduct profit from your profit? Because that would be 0 then, right? Let's see here. That might be an error in the book, actually. I'm just gonna... The financial gain realized when a business's revenue exceeds its expenses, costs, and taxes. Yeah, that makes more sense than whatever the fuck they're trying to say here. I really think this was a typo error of some sort. So we're just gonna say profit. Wait, I said profit definition. Ha ha ha. Net income. Net income often refers to the bottom line, or net profit is total profit a business or individual keeps after subtracting all expenses and tax. That's what I thought. Profit kept after all expenses, taxes, interest, and costs have been subtracted. Yeah, I found an error in the book. It's on page 131 in chapter 5. That's so funny. I'm so glad. I've learned so much that I caught that. That's so funny. Okay. Book value. Also called equity. Plus dividends. And the definition, value of the business is where value of businesses if it were closed down and all its assets were sold before any dividends were paid out. Okay. So value of a business, how to say this more simply. Is there a more simple way? Let's use Google and look up book value. It likes to simplify things for us. So calculated as total assets minus liabilities. I like that. Total assets minus liability. All right, number 3 is sales. And the definition they have here is amount earned from selling. Yeah. Amount earned from selling. And then 4 is operating cash, which if you remember back here, the actual cash you spent and got from the business operations. And the definition here says actual cash received from business operations. So I think actual is a very specific word, so we're just going to use theirs. Actual cash received from business operations. Okay. Don't need Googly no more. Big Four numbers growing at 10% or better each year, called the Big Four growth rates. So Big Four numbers, and next to that, I'm going to say Big Four growth rates, 10% or better. The most important thing is that it's constant and predictable, looking over the occasional valley and mountain. So underneath in little parentheses, I'm going to say all numbers need to be consistent and predictable, even if it's below that 10%. Maybe you can write that, but I'm going to remember that. Now we're going to move on to Charlie Munger's third principle of investing. All right. Third principle of investing. I found a few CEOs, which is management with integrity and talent, by the way. I didn't finish that. I found a few CEOs I wanted to look into, created a folder in which to save the articles I found, and started searching online. I looked at, okay, so I'm going to say management with integrity and talent. I'm going to say CEOs. 1, biography. 2, management style. 3, founder. So underneath biography, I penned, how did this person get there? What did they pay their dues, or was the path smoothly paved for them? And so next to it, I'm just saying how they get the position, question mark. For management style, are they a skydiving on the weekends entrepreneurial type, or a stay the course, keep growth steady and low type whom you've never heard of? Management style. I'm going to say what kind of leader? And then founder. If the current management team does not include the founder, they might be reacting to the founder's departure. I'm going to say in or out. We have 4, which is board of directors. And 5, which is ownership. And underneath board of directors, the board of directors hire and fire the management team. I tried to see if I could determine how they have handled doing both of those things. How they hire and fire. And ownership, I look for founders or executives with a large shareholding stake, so they are literally invested in the large term success of the company. So look for ones who have large shareholder stake in the company. Okay. Were they warm, authoritarian, family-orientated, community-orientated, mission-orientated? Were they an industrial specialist, a CEO for hire, a serial entrepreneur? Did they manage time well, have business loyalty, or move around a lot? The absence of information told me that this was not someone who had been under the press's microscope. Management is one of the hardest parts of the whole thing. Did you notice that Charlie said he would like to have a management team with integrity? Buffett once said that you should only invest in businesses an idiot could run, because one day an idiot will. Another way to gather information about executives is to read their letters to shareholders. I think that's something I'm going to write here. Just read letters to shareholders, which is why tomorrow we're going to start reading the Berkshire Hathaway ones that Charlie Munger put out. How open is the CEO in the letter? Does the CEO announce bad news will come, and does he or she do so in a way that is intellectually honest? Did what the CEO predict come to pass? How closely to the time frame and description the CEO gave did the prediction happen? What's the scuttlebutt around the internet about what the company's employees think about their management team? Now we're going to get into management numbers: return on equity, return on investing capital, and debt. Remember book value, one of the big four numbers. So we are going to write down management numbers, and then 1, return on equity, 2, return on invested capital, and 3, debt. Book value is the same as equity. It's on the balance sheet. What we want to know is what return the company is making on that equity. Return on equity is net income found on the income statement divided by equity found on the balance sheet. So we are going to write return on equity, ROE, because you'll probably see that more than anything else. Net income divided by equity. Return on equity, or ROE, tells us the return the company is getting on our shareholder investment. Return on investment capital, ROIC, net income divided by equity plus debt, is essentially the same thing, but the thing is we don't want companies with debt. And if they do have debt, we will see that the ROIC will be different from the ROE. And then between that, we'll see what the debt really is. And if they have a lot of debt, then we would hope to see that in their savings or the cash that they have on hand would cover that debt within that year or 2 years if they were capable. And we really don't want, because that would be like a margin of safety that would be creating. You don't want to invest in a company who has so much debt that they couldn't pay it off within 5 or 10 years. Like, that's just outrageous. Because if anything terrible happened, or if an idiot started running the company, then that company could go under really, really fast. And so those are the little small margins of safety things you want to be paying attention to when you're investing into a company. Looking for a company with an ROE and an ROIC at 15% or better each year for the last 10 years or so. That is also a little margin of safety. So that way you can see that the amount coming in and that they're making is going up. So I'm going to, next to management numbers, I'm going to write a little note there that ROE and ROIC, sorry, is at 15% each year for the last 10 years. For 10 years. And then I even highlighted here, I want the debt to be zero, preferably. That's what you're really looking for. You really honestly want there not to be a difference between the ROE and the ROIC number. You want them to be very, very close, if you're looking for that margin of safety. By looking at the difference between ROE and ROIC, I quickly know if and how much debt is involved in the business, which is good to know. Then she brings up a book. So, it looks like we're going to be checking out another book. I'm going to say book, circle, star, read. And this one is Complications. Doesn't say it. By Atulgawande. In this book, what she stole from it was, or what she got from it that's helping her here, is checklists have been a huge component of cutting down on doctor error. A checklist has to have a reasonable number of items. Too many, and it's overwhelming, and you spend more time checking off the checklist than using it. Too few, and you'll skip things. It becomes useless. So, now we're getting into our checklist. So, we're going to write my checklist, because we are going to copy this checklist, and we're going to start using this checklist probably for the homework. Just a little warning there. But also, you could use it on your own for when you're checking out things. So, underneath this checklist, she's Charlie's 4 principles, so I'm just going to write 4 principles. And 1 being, be capable of understanding. Be capable of understanding. The first one being, is the company inside my circle of competence? Remember the circle of competence, where your money is made, what you spend your money on, what you enjoy doing, and the things that fit into all 3, and then companies that fit into that. Yes, we do. I hope so. Is this company inside my circle of competence? The next one, are any of my gurus buying? I might actually write these down a little bit separate. We'll just go through them quickly. Are any of my gurus buying or selling the company? What is my overall level of confidence with my research into this company? Describe the business and industry in 1 paragraph. Describe the challenges and economic cycles of this industry. What are the company's plans for growth? Will growth peak within 10 years? 2. Moat. What is the moat? How hard is it to compete with this company? Compare this company to its competition. What are the big 4 growth rates? Are they speeding up or slowing down? What is the widget growth rate? Is it speeding up or slowing down? Does the company have enough cash to last several years if it's lost money? Oh, by the way, the widget growth rate is just ROE and ROC minus from each other. So, yeah, or was it? She renamed one of the. That's so funny that I didn't realize she wrote that in here. But one of the numbers in here, it's either that or it's the. No, now I remember. Okay, so remember how he said she renamed it. I wish she wouldn't have done that. She called it the widget growth rate, but the 10% or better, like big four numbers. So that's what she's calling the widget growth rate. Are the big four numbers growing, or are they staying the same? Are they speeding up? Are they slowing down? She calls them the widget growth rate. It's just the big four numbers. Okay, anyways. Does the company have enough cash to last several years if it loses money? And how were sales and earnings during the last recession? 3. Management. Does the CEO have integrity? How candid is the CEO's letter to the shareholders? Does management talk freely to investors when things are going well, but clam up or disclaim responsibility when troubles occur? How happy are its employees? Does the company have any debt? If yes, could it be paid within 1 year of free cash flow? Has the company indicated that it plans to take on debt any time in the future? Is the management team buying or selling company stock? 4. Reasonable price with margin of safety. And then she has an NADA, because we have not learned that yet here or in the podcast. And then she says, how would one value a company exactly? She's asking that. Like, just overall, after looking at this, she's like, what is that? Do you feel like you're valuing the company this way? And then this is our practice, our homework. May practice. Choose 3 companies you've gotten interested in from your reading and calculate the moat, management numbers of each one, as well as the windage growth rate. That's the big four growth rate. And notice how you're using financial statements and financial terms like a boss. Like a boss. Like a boss. You remember that song? Anyway, guys, that's the book. Come find me and join me with the Rule 1 podcast. But if you're finding this on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. What were the 3 companies you picked, and how did everything go? Until then. Oh, and don't forget to read chapter 6, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye!